Welcome to the 7th episode of Season 2 of our My Adventures with Superman podcast, covering Season 2, Episode 7 of the animated series, titled Olsen's 11, written by Paul Chang, M. Willis, Angela Ensminger, and Cynthia Fury, and directed by Diana Ha. The episode starts with Amanda Waller broadcasting a live message proclaiming Superman is an alien invader and that the Human Defense Force is enforcing martial law on the city of Metropolis. In a live TV interview, Amanda Waller confiscates footage that proves Superman isn't a threat. Elsewhere, Jimmy and Lois formulate a plan to save Superman. Lois wants to break into Star Labs to steal an Amazotech spaceship with the help of Livewire. Without a better plan, Jimmy reluctantly agrees. Visiting Livewire at her plush apartment block, Lois and Jimmy find Livewire and Heatwave living together. Jimmy uses all his funds to hire the pair to help them. Heatwave doesn't like the plan and walks out. Livewire starts formulating a plan. She says they need a crew. Jimmy invites Marla and the Brain, who are back from their 6-month travels across the multiverse. They've been working on their portal technology. Livewire plans to use a 30-second window between the changeover of guards. When inside, the crew will adjust the camera security system to mask their stealing of the ship. If things go south, Livewire says they'll fight their way out. Jimmy says there's always another way. Lois reveals to Jimmy that she brought along the kryptonite to take out Superman's cousin when they find him. Jimmy doesn't want to hurt Kara, revealing to Lois that he has met and befriended Superman's cousin and believes he can talk her down rather than use the kryptonite. Amanda Waller and Agent Wilson drop in on Lex at Star Labs to see how he's progressing with his plans. As Lois, Jimmy, Livewire, Marla and Brain sneak into Star Labs disguised as guards, they realise the guard on duty isn't leaving because he has a double shift. Instead of hurting him, Jimmy jumps out and talks to him, saying he'll cover his shift for him so he can go visit his grandmother. It works and they're in. They have a little trouble adjusting the cameras and Amanda Waller notices. She sends Wilson to handle it. As they approach the hangar housing the ship, Marla and the Brain go in search of something that they need for their portal technology. Jimmy, Lois and Livewire are attacked by Waller's Black Ops crew. Livewire protects Lois and Jimmy to a point. Leaving Lois and Jimmy trapped, the two escape into the ceiling air conditioning ventilation system. As they crawl along, Lois is adamant she's going to take Kara out. Jimmy talks her down, reminding her that unlike Clark, who had them, Kara is alone. Finding the ship, Lois and Jimmy realise it's in no condition to fly. Lois laments having broken up with Clark as she loves him. She was just scared he didn't love her in the same way. Just then, Marla and Brain arrive with the supplies they need to get the ship operational. Lex's Metallo robots attack. Marla and Brain attempt to get the ship working, finally succeeding. However, the Metallos have other ideas, stopping them from taking off. As all looks lost, Livewire and Heatwave come to the rescue. Their whole act of breaking up and leaving Jimmy and Lois was a ruse. While Jimmy and Lois were distracting Waller, Livewire's actual crew broke into the armory and grabbed everything they wanted. When they overheard Lois's lamenting about her fear of loving Clark, they had a change of heart. Love is not for cowards. As they fight off the Metallos, Lois launches the ship into space. As Wilson gloats at Lex's failure, it seems Waller sees it as a success. The Metallos were able to hold their own in a fight with superpowered beings. She's willing to give Lex whatever resources he needs. As the rocket ship flies through space, Jimmy reveals to Lois that he introduced Kara to ice cream, went to the garden, and watched the sunset together. Lois is incredulous that Jimmy and Kara went on a date together. Marla and the Brain's technology opens a portal, and the ship arrives at its destination. Kara floats in space outside the front window. I gave this episode a 3 out of 5 rating. While this episode deals with what was happening back on Earth while Superman was dealing with being kidnapped by Kara in outer space, there was just too much silliness for me to enjoy it as much as I have other recent episodes. Lois and Jimmy break into a high-tech facility to steal a spaceship to go save Superman. Sounds like an interesting premise, but the collection of things that took place to get them to that point were a little too crazy for my liking. Maybe it was the mishmash crew of characters. While I liked Marla and the Brain when we were introduced to them back in Season 1, here they just come across as annoying, rambling characters. They serve a purpose, but what little value they add to the plot is outweighed by how scatterbrained they act. Requiring the help of villains is always fraught with danger, and while I liked how Livewire and Heatwave were used here, their redemption seemed a little forced. Sure, love is a powerful motivator, but the Livewire we've seen in this series so far doesn't feel like the kind of character who would have come around so quickly the way she did in this episode. What I did really like was Lois's discovering Jimmy had gone on a date with Clark's evil cousin. In true Jimmy form, he always sees the best in people, and I liked how he was frustrated at how everyone in his team seemed so intent on hurting other people to advance their cause. I understand now why the episode was titled Olsen's 11, as it really is Jimmy who takes the lead in showing everyone that there is a better way to do things and that violence isn't always the first answer. I'm glad Lois is feeling guilty at having given up on her relationship with Clark due to fear. It was obvious through the use of Marla and the Brain and Livewire and Heatwave that the message of this episode is that love is worth fighting for. It was a little ham-fisted, but I appreciated the message either way. Lex and Agent Wilson having somewhat of a sibling rivalry, with Amanda Waller as the mother figure, was a little childish. This episode seemed a step back for Lex's character development. The way Waller was ordering him around made him seem less than what he's become in recent episodes. He still won out, in a way, at the end of this episode, but he didn't seem in command of the situation at all. I also found it somewhat disconcerting that Waller was able to implement martial law so quickly. I'm looking forward to Superman bringing her down a peg or two upon his return. All in all, this wasn't a bad episode, it just felt a little off for me. The fact that Superman wasn't involved probably had a lot to do with it, now that I think about it. Now that Lois and Jimmy have arrived in space, hopefully the remaining 3 episodes of this season will kick into high gear. I'm Steve Younis from SupermanHomepage.com.